Let's get back to Cunha. How good do you think he is? And is he good enough for Manchester United? Is that a step in the right direction?
I think there's a lot of players good enough for Man United at the minute. No, I think he's a top player, and for Man United it's difficult to, because a lot of players have gone there with ability and reputation and have struggled over the last few years. So it's difficult. I think what United at the minute need to do is really identify a core group of players who can help sustain the club over the next 2 or 3 years, and instead of going for, which they've done in the past with Lukaku, with Pogba, with Zlatan, going for superstars and names, which I don't think Cunha's at that level at the minute, but they need to really get it, and plus financial fair play might hit United as well, so you have to really, the recruitment has to be miles better than what it has been, and you have to identify a group of players, a bit what Liverpool have done over the last few years, and try and get players into, you know, gradually get them back, get United back.
Adam, I just want to ask you about Cunha as well, but also, does it worry you that Pereira's come in at Wolves and Amorim at Manchester United, both playing a similar system, and they've got an inferior squad, Wolves to Manchester United, and he's made sort of, it's a bigger turnaround basically.
I mean, it's obviously not ideal when you look at the cold hard facts and the stats towards it all, but I do think, like, when you look at the squad, the players that we have, they're not suited to the system that the manager wants to play. You could say, does he need to adapt to the players that he has to get better results, which you could argue, but then it's kind of like, does he change his culture, his philosophy and all that kind of stuff for players that aren't going to be there for that long? I think he's got a balancing act with that. It's been good to see us introducing some of the younger players into it, because I think if we're going to use this time in the league games mean nothing at the moment. So if we're going to use them, at least use them to give some players some minutes and give some to try and discover whether some of these younger players are good enough or not. I agreed with what Jim Ratcliffe said when he looked at the squad. Because of the injuries and stuff that have been here when he got here, the manager, he's hardly, like, you look at our spending and stuff and you go, well, they're spending a lot of money, the wage bill's quite high, but then the actual players that he's got to use, it doesn't reflect in those players, the wage bill and stuff. So I think it's not ideal. You can't be, I think we've lost about 15 or 16 league games. You never want to be in that kind of position. And you don't want to be in a position where you're just writing off league games for fun. But it's like at the weekend against Wolves, I thought we were probably the better team, should have taken our chances. You've got a goalkeeper who I don't think he trusts, and you've got a number 9 who couldn't hit a barn door at the moment. I've tried to keep faith with what Rasmus Højlund is doing. He's a young striker, kind of learning his trade in a difficult environment. Like when Wayne come through, he's got leaders around him. He's got obviously a settled manager, a settled team, a club, and players coming through at the moment haven't got any of that. But he doesn't do the basics as a striker. Like, his movement's poor. He's not trying to get onto the end of things. And I just feel if we did have a striker, maybe a few of the results would be different. But you've got to get short term.
I think I understand what you're saying, but I think for Manchester United as a football club, over the next few years, they need to attract players to the football club. So when you're losing games of football and you're relying on, obviously, the Europa League now to get into the Champions League, if Man United don't win that and don't finish in the Champions League, then if I put my players hat on, I'm looking at it. I signed for Man United because of Alex Ferguson. And Man United at the time were going through a transition period as well, but I knew that Alex Ferguson would get that right. So if I'm a player now and I'm thinking Manchester United come in for me, I'd be looking at it thinking, well, the manager hasn't done great since he's gone in there. The losing games, how do we see this moving forward? And that's what I'd be looking at. Then you've got teams who are, Villas, Newcastles, who are coming up and challenging. And so as a player, that'd be my concern as a Man United fan now as well, is I think you still need to go and try and win football games. It's important. You can't just write off games in the Premier League because you want to win the Europa League. And you need that momentum as well to switch you, to switch you from losing games to then go and win games is very difficult. So I think, in my opinion, Man United should be playing the strongest team. I know I get playing kids, or you bring one in, or give a young player the last 20 minutes, but the importance of winning football games, going into the semi-final, going into the final, hopefully, and that building on to attack players. I think this is a really important few weeks now for Manchester United, and I think it has to be managed right, otherwise...
Yeah, if we go out on the 8th, I think the second leg's on the 8th. If we go out, suddenly the season just everyone starts talking, the headlines are a little bit bigger. But I can't see the sense in kind of sticking with, Eriksen. Like, why do we need to see him play? We know he's leaving in the summer, maybe try something different in there. Same with Højlund. We get the feeling this kind of experiment's over now. So why not give Cheeto a few minutes, see if he can adapt and be a part of the squad? And like we saw Harry Amas getting some minutes, Fredrickson at the back. I think I'd rather see us kind of put some faith in the youth than some of the players that have kind of let us down.
But he's not going to do that for the final. If
he's not.
Final. So, in my opinion, it's more important that Højlund gets minutes, for instance, and hopefully he gets 2 or 3 goals and gets a bit of confidence, because Højlund or Zerki, one of them is going to play probably in the final. So the importance of them getting momentum and confidence back before the final or going into the semi-finals is more important for this period in time. The youngsters will get their opportunities, but in this period, the youngsters might come in and then get left out, not even in the squad for the Europa League. So getting confidence into players now is really... He should be focusing, in my opinion, on what's his team going to be for the semi-final and how can I get confidence into this group of players, this group of 14 players, if you like. He needs to focus on them, in my opinion, rather than leaving players out, bringing young players in, then flipping it again. It's so hard.
I think he's in a weird position, though, because ideally, he does that, but we're losing so many players to injuries. And then Xerxes out for the rest of the season now. Just when he's not scoring many goals, but he's just kind of picking up some form and he's out. And I think there's the fear that if you do that in the games, in the league games, and you lose a few of them, then we haven't got an 11 for the final.
Obviously, that's always a fear, though, isn't it?
Balancing act.
Are you confident about Bilbao? You'll win the semi-final?
Honestly, I don't know. United could go and roll them over, or could get beat, by 2 or 3. That's where they're at. You don't know. I hope so. Really hope so.
There was a really worrying period. Like, in the grand scheme of things against Lyon over both legs, I thought most of the time we were the better team. But when our heads really, really went. And in that period where they got back into the game, even with 10 men started controlling it, there was some alarming things there. And if we do have a spell like that against Bilbao, they'll beat us. Like, they will beat us. I don't see us being let off the hook against them.
And if we get into the final, no hesitation at all?
No problem. Spurs don't beat us in the final.
Neither of you will be there.
I know.
Matheus Cunha from Wolves, who we understand is giving positive indications about joining Manchester United. Is this a good fit, a perfect fit in Rúben Amorim's formation?
I think he suits the system, definitely. Cunha's awesome, right? He's just great to watch. An electric sort of hybrid playmaker, goal scorer. It scores the most ridiculous goals. I know everyone harps on about him overperforming his expected goals and his finishing, but look how he strikes the ball. Look what he can do from distance. He'll probably just carry on doing that because he's a very special player. And if you're looking at those 2 support roles in Amorim's system, just off the striker, he's tailor-made for those, because he's a bit of this and a bit of that. He can go wide, he can play inside, he can sort of fill in up front, he can drop in, he can take the ball, and he can create, and he can shoot. Like that's what those roles are built for, right? To really take the ball and put the team on your back and say, right, I'm going to do this. He's not a number 9, so I wouldn't play him up there, and he's not an actual wide player. But those roles that Amorim has in his system are designed for players like Cunha, who you just look at and go, difference maker, X factor. The only knock on Cunha is that he's had 2 red cards this season for violent conduct or misconduct of some description, and in the past, going back to his days in Germany at Hertha and RB Leipzig, he has fallen out with a couple of coaches. He seems like a bit of a character, not necessarily in always the right way, and you have to balance up that risk. If it was just about the footballer, I'd be like, do it, just go. He's awesome.
I actually think as well that when you're signing a player at Manchester United, it has to be a bit more than just, ability. You have to be able to cope. But you also have to have something about you, a bit of character, personality. I do think he has got that. This is only based, by the way, from a couple of interviews I've done with him over the years. I just think he's always come across as somebody he's his own person. He's kind of, he just has that personality you feel could cope with the demands of playing at that club.
And you can see him. You can see the personality on the pitch.
Yeah.
He takes responsibility every single week, and did so for Wolves over and over again, and said, You give me the ball, I'll get this done. Bit like how Bruno Fernandes does it for Man United right now. Wouldn't it be nice for Bruno to have someone else that they can give the ball to and say, don't worry lads, I've got this. That again is personality.
Yep. And the times when he has got himself in trouble on the pitch, a bit similar to Bruno Fernandes when you think about it in terms of maybe a red card here and there.
Yeah.
Are the times when things aren't going well, and okay, you can argue that that's the time you need your leaders to step up and really drag a team through, but it's because they set such high standards for themselves that they get frustrated.
At least he cares.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.